I'm Carson Horn, and it's time for another edition of Talkin' Toomers, where I break down the latest happenings in Auburn athletics. Let's get rolling. Heart rate is still making its way back down as I am recording this after just finishing watching Auburn fall to Houston 73-72 in Birmingham in what was a fantastic game. Has to be one of the best games of the college basketball season thus far. We're going to break it all down on today's episode of Talkin' Toomers. That is what we will start out with. We are going to lead the show with Auburn basketball today. You know that if it was up to me, we would lead every show with Auburn basketball. We don't, but today's episode we are going to. But I'll have plenty on Auburn football. Do not worry. We will talk about the Mercery game, give a preview of that. We'll talk about the latest revolving around Auburn's coaching search. Who's Auburn going to hire? Is DJ Durkin going to get the job? Is it going to be John Sumrall? I'll give my 2 cents on it, as I'm sure all of you have your opinions on it as well. And we'll talk about the Iron Bowl a little bit, so plenty to get into on today's episode of Talkin' Toomers. I am Carson Horn. Thank you so much, whether you're watching or listening to this episode. I greatly appreciate it. If you haven't already, I'd ask you just would please subscribe to the show. It would mean a ton. Okay, let's get into it. Now, this is a rapid reaction. Typically, when I record shows, I've had about 24 hours to process things and kind of think over it, sleep on it. Well, I'm recording this right after the game ended, so this is a rapid reaction. I haven't had time to really dive deep into the stats. It's just instant. What am I thinking after I just got done watching this game? So I've got the stats pulled up, though, to help me out a little bit. First off, just a tremendous basketball game. Credit to Auburn and Houston. This felt like a February or March level basketball game. You could say it felt like an NCAA tournament game. Hats off to the crowd in Birmingham. They were just tremendous. Tremendous crowd in Birmingham for this game. Both teams played their tails off. These are two good teams. Houston came in number 1 ranked team in the country. They were physical. They played with great effort, as they always do, as we come to expect from Kelvin Sampson teams. And they gave Auburn everything they wanted, but Auburn gave Houston everything they wanted in return in this game. I was super impressed by the energy and effort from this Auburn basketball team. We said coming in this game, we'll find out what this team is made of. We'll find out who this team is. Are they for real? Are they a pretender? It's still early in the season, a long way to go. So this wasn't going to decide things one way or another for sure, but it was going to give us a good idea of where this Auburn team is at right now. And it turns out this Auburn team's still for real. I just have to say this. To anyone who doubted that Auburn basketball was going anywhere after Bruce Pearl retired, is not. Auburn basketball is here to stay. Auburn is going to continue to be a high-level program. Stephen Pearl and the staff are doing a tremendous job. It's still early in his tenure. This team's going to have growing pains. Stephen Pearl is going to have growing pains. I'm sure there's plenty that Stephen Pearl will look back on in this game and wish that he had done differently. Maybe he's going to wish he called things differently in those final couple possessions of this game. But Auburn basketball isn't going anywhere. They're going to continue to be a force to be reckoned with throughout this college basketball season, and that's exciting to see if you're an Auburn fan, and probably not so exciting to see if you're the rest of the SEC and the rest of college basketball. And Auburn showed tremendous effort and energy in this game. Auburn rebounded at a really high rate. Let me get that pulled up. Yeah, Auburn only lost rebounding battle by 3. You only lose rebounding battle by 3 to Houston. That is tremendous. Auburn had the same amount of offensive rebounds, 14, as Houston did. That is impressive. If you know anything about this Houston basketball program, you know they pride themselves on rebounding, on offensive rebounds in particular. So hats off to Auburn for the effort on the boards in this game. So what did the game come down to? If Auburn did a lot of things well, then why did Auburn lose this basketball game? Well, Auburn shot 39% in the game. Let's start with that. So Auburn did not shoot it well. Look, you're playing Houston. It's hard to get good looks against them. We know that. Auburn missed some good looks. Auburn shot 32% from 3. But really, the key came down to free throws. Houston was 10 for 12 from the free throw line. Auburn had 33 attempts from the free throw line, but was 21 of 33. Auburn lost this game by 1. So say Houston makes their other 2. That's 75. Auburn missed 11 free throws. That's the difference. When I marked out the keys for this game, I said Auburn probably needs to shoot around 40% from 3. They're about 8 percentage points lower than that. So honestly, I thought if Auburn shot this poorly, they probably didn't have a chance. And I said Auburn needed to get to the free throw line. And and make them. And, well, they didn't do it at a high enough rate in this game. Auburn also turned it over too much. It got better, I will say, in the second half. But 6 turnovers, I believe it was, in the first half. That led to 13 overall in the game. Houston had 13 points off of turnovers. Auburn only had 9 points off of turnovers in this one. Look, when you're playing a team as good as Houston, the margin for error is very, very slim. And Auburn's just a few areas. Look, Auburn rebounded really well. Auburn played really well defensively. Just a few areas where the difference. Now, Houston, man, how about the play they got from their freshman? Senac in this game was incredible. Flemings was incredible. He had 22 points. Senac had 18. Those guys are special. They were 5 stars for a reason, and they played like it in this game against Auburn. Another key point, if you did not get a chance to watch this game or didn't get to watch the whole game, another turning point in this game was Keyshawn Hall, who ended up with 20 points yet again for Auburn in this game. Went out with a injury, looked like an ankle injury or so, and a 4:14 mark of this game. As I'm recording this, don't have an update. He did stay in to shoot his free throws, but he went out. We know he's Auburn's best scorer. He's arguably Auburn's best player. Auburn has to have him. The ceiling of this team falls dramatically if Keyshawn Hall is not available and cannot play for Auburn. So hopefully it's nothing too serious. It didn't look good. Like I said, he did come back out onto the court, but he was obviously limping, couldn't put really any weight on his ankle or foot at all. Now, to his credit, he stayed in there after that injury and knocked down both free throws, so he was not one of the 11 misses that Auburn had in this game. So hats off to him. Hopefully he can get well rather quickly. But that's a big loss for Auburn. Auburn has to have him if Auburn wants to achieve what they're capable of this season. So that just circled that point in the game as something to come back to. But actually, Auburn went on a run there in the final 4 minutes. But that was a big loss for Auburn, of course, in this game. Auburn really throughout was right there on their heels, on Houston's heels throughout the game. Just couldn't ever get over that hump. In this one, there were chances. Auburn would go on runs, but then they either turn it over or they make a dumb mistake. Just couldn't quite get over that hump. Again, the margin for error in these types of games against really good teams is very, very thin. And then finally, another takeaway is Auburn's depth was still very, very thin. And that's why the Keyshawn Hall injury matters even more. Auburn has 6 guys that they can really rely on right now. We know Keyshawn Murphy, the center for Auburn, has already been banged up, and now you have Keyshawn Hall in there. This team has to get more depth. You have to get more from their bench. Philip Jovic has to provide better minutes. He plays with great effort. He's still trying to adjust, I think, to the college game. He's got to be better. You have to get something more out of Abdul Bashir, or whether it's Blake Mushalik. You've got to get something more out of those guys off of the bench. Auburn's just not getting enough from their bench besides Sebastian Williams-Adams right now. Does that mean Emeka Oporum gets back in the rotation? He did not play in this game. He's played well in the minutes he's played. I'm sure there is a reason for him not playing that we don't necessarily know, but Auburn needs more out of their bench. Auburn cannot expect to go through the grind they're going to have to go through in Vegas next week, or the grind they're going to have to go through in the SEC play and then into NCAA tournament, hopefully for this group, and expect to be able to win a lot of games and go on a run if you're constantly having to play Todd Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall in your 40 minutes per game. So Auburn needs more from their bench. Caden Magwood as well, add him into that group too. He made a nice 3. Defensively, though, it's a struggle for him. So Auburn needs to get more out of their bench. And this was a big game. I knew the rotations would tighten down. But that's something that Auburn's going to have to focus on. Stephen Pearl and this coaching staff really going to have to focus on. Really trying to get their bench more minutes in these games against like Jackson State on Wednesday. So, to summarize the Houston game today for Auburn before we look ahead, really proud of this team's effort. There was some doubt after the exhibition games and the Bethune-Cookman game. Hey, what's this Auburn team about? Is this going to be a really bad team, or do they belong? Look, I do think I'm still standing by what I said last week, that I do think this team is going to have a high variance levels. Means they're going to be very up and down. It's going to be like a roller coaster. I do expect with this team. I just think that's the way they're built, especially early in the year. Again, still getting used to playing with one another, still in new groups. So I'm not backing away from that. But this did confirm to me that when this team's at its best, sorry, just got Stephen Pearl just quote said, "Moral victories are are for losers. So maybe he doesn't want to listen to what I'm saying right now, because I think I'm talking in moral victories right here. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. This is bad podcasting by me. But I digress. What was I even talking about here? But yes, so moral victories in this game for Auburn. This team I still think is going to be up and down. It's just the way they are with the new group, and it's still a group that's learning how to play together. But you saw this team at its best, or at near its best, can compete with anyone in the country, and that I wasn't sure about. I wasn't sure what the ceiling of this team was, but I think I'm starting to get a grasp of it, and it's looking like the ceiling of this team is pretty dang good, and so that excites me. Now, with that being said, Auburn plays Jackson State on Wednesday night. Jackson State's really bad. Auburn should take care of business in that one, but again, you're coming off a big game. How are you deflated? How do you respond? Of course, I assume Keyshawn Hall will not be available to play in that game. So should get more bench minutes out there. Work on the things that you need to work on. Get healthy. Take care of business. And then get ready to head out to Vegas for Thanksgiving week. We'll talk more about that on next week's show. Auburn will be heading out to Vegas for the tournament out there over Thanksgiving, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Hopefully, Keyshawn Hall can play in that game, in that tournament. If not, it could be a tough tournament for Auburn. But we'll see. We'll get more on that later on. Let me just check real quick before I move on from basketball, see if we've got any update on Keyshawn Hall at this time. It does not look like it yet on him. Hopefully, just a sprain. Well, obviously, those can be bad, but you don't want anything further than that. And hopefully, he can get back to it. But overall, despite what Stephen Pearl said, and I agree, I love that, it was a positive day, I think, for Auburn basketball. This team showed they belong. This team showed that they are a force to be reckoned with in college basketball yet again this season. Let's continue now, moving on to Auburn football. Auburn is coming off their second bye week of the season, and now Auburn prepares for its final 2 weeks under interim head coach DJ Durkin. I'll have more on the coaching search in just a second, but let's first talk about this game this week against Mercer. All the conversation for the next 2 weeks is going to be on the Iron Bowl, and the opportunity that Auburn is going to have in the Iron Bowl to not only win the Iron Bowl, but to also potentially knock Alabama out of the college football playoff, and that's going to be a massive deal. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be a lot of excitement from the Auburn fan base about that. However, if you're this Auburn team, if you're this Auburn coaching staff, anybody involved with the program, you have to be able to shut that noise out for a week. It's not going to be easy. That's what you're going to see on social media. That's what you're going to talk about when you're out and about with people who aren't a part of the team. But you have to ignore that because you're facing a Mercer team that, while at the FCS level, is really good. They're a 9-1 football team. They have an electric offense that's averaging nearly 40 points per game. This is not a game that you can take lightly. You are not good enough if you're Auburn to take this game lightly. Yes, Auburn has a lot more talent than Mercer. No one's denying that. However, you're still not good enough to take this game lightly. You have to be locked in. You have to be focused. Look, some guys were on the team a couple years ago when Auburn lost to New Mexico State. They'll certainly remember that game. I don't know if it's worthwhile bringing that up at that point. It's been a couple years ago. There are plenty of guys who were not on that team when that happened. But DJ Durkin and his staff have to make sure this team is locked in to this Mercer team and to this game and cannot be distracted by anything else, cannot think about the Iron Bowl. I always hate these games every single year because, look, for one, especially when they're at home, it really is difficult when it lines up like this, which it pretty much every year does, because there's not many fans there. There's certainly not many students there because students, especially if there's a home Iron Bowl, they're going to come back for the Iron Bowl game, so most students are heading out of town, so the student section is half full, if that. The overall stands is not very crowded. It's a daytime game. You have to have your own internal motivation in this game. There is not going to be much external motivation in the stadium. So what do you have inside of you? Are you just excited that you get the chance to suit up in Jordan-Hare Stadium for another game, that you get to play inside the stadium, you get to play with your brothers for another game? There has to be a certain internal motivation for these guys. Player leadership is very important in a game like this. So guys like Kildrick Falk, guys like Keyron Crawford, and others on this team have to step up and lead in this moment to make sure this team is locked in, make sure this team is prepared, The last thing you want is to be in a dogfight with Mercer come the fourth quarter and everybody's angry, everybody's frustrated. You want to take care of business, lock in, and then you can worry about the Iron Bowl. Iron Bowl will be here soon enough. Don't worry. But you want to know a way that you can kind of take the energy out of the room before the Iron Bowl? Lose this game to Mercer. And it would deflate some of the excitement surrounding the Iron Bowl right now. So take care of business if you're Auburn. Don't mess around with this Mercer team. They beat Chattanooga this past week 63-17. This is a good football team. Again, yes, they're at the FCS level. Yes, Auburn has plenty more talent. Don't mess around. Take care of business. Now, as far as question marks go in this game, at the time I am recording this, we don't know an answer on who is starting at quarterback. Now, by the time you're watching or listening to this episode, there's a good chance we do know. I would assume on Monday at his press conference, DJ Durkin will announce who is starting more than likely. Maybe he doesn't. But at the time I'm recording this, I do not know who is going to start at QB. My guess is it will not be Ashton Daniels. Now, will it be Deuce Knight? Will it be Jackson Arnold? Let's play some hypotheticals here because I don't know at the time who is starting. So let's say Auburn goes with Jackson Arnold in this game. He's probably your best option if Ashton Daniels isn't available. We've seen Jackson Arnold do some good things. He should be able to take care of business in this game and do what needs to be done to win this football game and to execute at a high enough level to do that. My concern with Jackson Arnold at this point is, has he checked out? He lost his job. The season hasn't gone well. It's back-to-back tough seasons. Where is he mentally at this moment? Is he already planning on entering the transfer portal? Those are questions that we just don't know the answer to. So is he focused? Is he still bought in on this season for at least the next 2 weeks? And then he can move on at that point if he desires to, or if he wants to, to come back to Auburn for next season. That's my question mark. If you go with him, how focused, how locked in is he? What is his relationship like with the guys on this team? Are they willing to go out there and play for him still? I don't know that they're not. Those are just questions that I have if you go with him. On the flip side, what if you go with true freshman Deuce Knight? The little bit of action we have seen from him this season wasn't pretty. He looked like a true freshman. He looked uncomfortable. But again, that was early in the season. He's had a year's worth of practice now. We know he's got great arm talent. We know he's a super talented quarterback overall. Some still believe he's the future for Auburn at the quarterback position. That'll be up to the next head coach to decide what they want to do with him, whether they want to retain him or not. I'm not selling my stock on Deuce Knight. I am still confident that he has a bright future, and I hope it is at Auburn. I think it will be good for him to get the start. The problem is, if he doesn't give you the best chance to win, can you go with him? Again, I just mentioned this Mercer team is 9-1. They are a dangerous team. So you're seeking someone out there to make his first career start, and the last time he played wasn't pretty. He's probably not getting many reps with the ones, considering he's been third string all year. So what's his relationship like with the receivers? What's his connectivity like with the receivers is a big question mark that I have. Things could be a little rough. You have to have a really good game plan if you're going to go with him in this game, if you're Derek Nix and this offensive staff, because things could get sideways really quickly, and it won't necessarily even be his fault. It's just the fact that he has not had reps with the first-team offense much this season. Now, maybe last week he got all the first-team reps. I don't know that. But maybe that was a possibility, and they do feel good about it. So I would love to see Deuce Knight. However, it does give me a slight concern if you were facing a UMass in this game or something like that who hasn't won a game all year. I don't want to mess around here is what I'm saying. And so I trust this Auburn staff to make the right decision here with the quarterback move in this game. But you got to make sure you got a quarterback that's ready to go win you a football game here. Maybe that's Deuce Knight. Maybe that is Jackson Arnold. We'll find out. Okay, now what I'm sure most of you want to hear about and most of you want to talk about, if you're like me and my friends, we're talking about the coaching search much more than we're talking about really anything else right now. What is going on? Again, I'm recording this on a Sunday afternoon. News happens really fast in the coaching search. So by the time you're listening, maybe there's been more that has happened that had not happened at the time of recording this. Look, I wish I had intel. I don't, so all I can offer is opinions based on what has been reported out there on this Auburn coaching search. It has been reported that John Cohen and whoever else is involved in these interviews has been conducting interviews for the past week plus now, and Auburn has interviewed a wide range of candidates, as you might imagine. At this point, based on all the reporting out there, It does seem like John Sumrall is still in the lead. If you don't know who that is the Tulane head coach, current Tulane head coach, coached at Troy as head coach before then. Also had a stint as a position coach at both Kentucky and Ole Miss. He played at Kentucky. He is from Alabama originally, born and raised in Alabama. That's still my gut. If I had to make a prediction just based off what others have said, I still think John Sumrall will be the pick here. Will that please everybody in the Auburn fan base? No. Is there any hire that's going to please everyone in the Auburn fan base? No. Unless Auburn could get Lane Kiffin, and that's not going to happen, then no. I don't think there's a candidate out there that's going to please the entire Auburn fan base. Do I think John Sumrall would get the majority of the Auburn fan base's support? I do. But again, we're not there yet. I don't want to dive into a deep dive into John Sumrall. I'm ready to do that if he is the hire, but I don't want to do that quite yet because I don't want to do that and then him not be hired, and then essentially we wasted our time on that. So I will wait to dive into John Sumrall. I do think there's other candidates still involved here as has been reported, like Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, of course DJ Durkin. I know there are plenty of Auburn fans that are in support of DJ Durkin. My gut all along has been that he won't get this job. However, let him win the Iron Bowl and the decision have not been made yet. There will be a heavy push, as we know, for DJ Durkin to become the head coach because we know how passionate Auburn fans are, but Auburn fans are also emotional. So if you go out and you win an Iron Bowl, Auburn fans are going to be ready to hire you. So I do think for John Cohen, it will be important for him to have his decision made one way or the other before the Iron Bowl. And if he does plan to hire someone besides DJ Durkin, it might be beneficial to him to have that name leak out the day of the Iron Bowl so things are a little bit settled. Because if you've already decided and then DJ Durkin wins the Iron Bowl, then it could get a little bit toxic potentially. But those are big what ifs there. Those are, we don't know what's going to happen in the next couple weeks. But as we sit here today on, November 16th as I'm recording this, my gut, based on what has been shared and reported by people who know a lot more than I do, will still be John Sumrall will be the next head coach for Auburn. But until it's final, anything can still happen. And as far as we know, it is not finalized yet. We know things are moving fast in the coaching carousel world, faster than usual. I think part of the reason it's moving faster than usual is because firings are happening sooner than usual. So that means teams are trying to get their coaches in place by signing day, which is 1st of December, and we're in the back half of November now. So things are happening quickly. I imagine we'll have even a better idea of where this coaching search is at come next week when we get ready to preview the Iron Bowl. Well, thank you all for watching and listening today. If you haven't already, I ask for you please like and subscribe to the show. Really appreciate it. Of course, next week will be a massive show as we will preview the Iron Bowl and what is at stake. We've already touched on it a little bit. A lot will be at stake next week. We will preview that on Talkin Toomers, so you will not want to miss that episode. So we will see you again next week. Thank you for listening to Talkin Toomers. If you liked what you heard, make sure to subscribe and follow @Talkin Toomers on social media so you'll never miss an episode. War Eagle.